Ladies and gentlemen, in the first story, we see that sometimes it's not good to say the truth. Some truths are better left untold. I told my husband about my 8-week affair, and that has ruined everything for me. I didn't expect him to react the way he did. His reaction was unexpected. He made it seem worse than it was. I thought that telling him the truth would make him more understanding and help him to calm down. Instead, he did something I didn't expect. Hi, my name is Becky. I'm 23 and I've been married to my husband for 3 years now. Over the past 3 years of our marriage, my husband has been very busy and doesn't stay at home much. I've been very lonely and often feel disconnected from him. The past 3 years have been depressing because I thought my husband was going to be present in I needed to feel loved and appreciated. But he was the opposite. My husband's name is Andrew and he is 28 years old. He is a surgeon and he is very busy. The nature of his job requires long hours of work, and he often comes back home late. On night shifts and coming back home the next day, there are days I don't get to see Andrew before he leaves for work. Even on weekends, my husband works more at the hospital, which leaves me lonely at home. This has caused a rift in our relationship as we don't spend quality time together like we used to. Andrew and I have noticed that his hectic work schedule has made it difficult for us to have normal conversations. We don't usually go on regular dates like we used to when we were still dating or attending functions together. Now Andrew is like a stranger, and I barely get to see him. This is not what I signed up for. I never signed up for this. I know his work is very important to him, and I'm not trying to be selfish, but this has mentally drained me. I have tried everything to make this marriage work. I even tried to have a conversation with Andrew about it, but he keeps talking about the nature of his job. I was waiting for my husband to come back home so we could talk. But he made up an excuse that he was tired and not ready to have a conversation with me. Yes, you read that right. Andrew said that to me. Trying to have a conversation with someone I'm married to is now making me look like a troublesome wife. Or someone that always gives her husband a hard time when he comes back home. It seems like I am married to myself because I don't even know Andrew anymore. He wasn't like this when we were dating. My husband was always giving me attention and everything I needed. Yes, I don't lack anything that would keep me comfortable at home, or any material things because my husband works for both of us. But I still keep yearning for my husband's attention. Money is not everything, at least not to me. My husband doesn't want to understand that his wife also needs attention like he always gives to his patients. At the hospital, Andrew thinks everything's fine with me, because I've got everything a wife could want to live comfortably at home. I don't even know when Andrew and I last went out together or went to an event as a couple. There was a time I had to go to a fundraiser. I felt so lonely all by myself. Looking at other couples that were present, it looked as if I was single. Some of Andrew's friends and mine kept asking why Andrew didn't come, and why I came alone. I had to cover up for him on many occasions. Like that, I do make excuses for Andrew. Sometimes I do feel like I don't know if he's doing this on purpose or cheating on me with another lady. Maybe he's having an affair with one of his colleagues at work and using his work as a cover. On Andrew's birthday, I wanted to throw him a surprise party, so I invited some friends. I couldn't invite any family members because we live far from them. So I invited some of Andrew's friends and mine to help me surprise him on his birthday. On the morning of his birthday, I tried my best to wish him a happy birthday before leaving for work. We woke up that morning, and I told him a happy birthday, and even I sang him a birthday song and he seemed happy. I could tell he was smiling before he left for work. As soon as he left, I made a few calls and started making arrangements. I rented a hall and decorated it with help from our friends to make it more unique. I baked a nice cake for Andrew. I made all the arrangements. I also arranged food and drinks for those who would be present. I sent out a message instructing them not to let Andrew know about it, so as to not ruin the surprise. Everyone complied and didn't let Andrew know about it. Everything was set, and everyone arrived at the venue 30 minutes before the party was scheduled to start at 8. By 7, everyone was there. By 30 minutes to the party, the saxophonist and the music band were there too. Everything went according to plan. The only person there was the birthday celebrant, Andrew. Everyone was keen to see him. I called him on my phone to tell him to come to the venue. I wanted my husband's 28th birthday to be memorable for him, and it was for me too. I wanted to show Andrew how much I love him. He's never been like this before. I have no problem with him working, but his lack of attention is draining me mentally and emotionally. This started when my husband got promoted at his workplace. I'm not saying Andrew's promotion is bad, but it has brought more harm than good to me. I don't see him at home much, guys. I brought out my phone to put Andrew through on the phone since he was the reason for the event. The first 2 minutes I tried, Andrew's line was unreachable. I kept my cool and continued trying his lines. I was desperate to reach him after a few minutes of not being able to reach Andrew, so I called Andrew's friend Stanley. Stanley and Andrew have been friends since childhood and are very close. I told Stanley that I couldn't get Andrew on the phone because his lines were unreachable. He pulled me to a corner in the hall so he wouldn't cause a scene and told me to calm down so that he would try to call him. Stanley also tried Andrew's line, but it was still not reachable at that point. I had a lot of thoughts running through my mind. I was thinking that maybe Andrew had taken the woman he was cheating on me with to a nice restaurant to celebrate his birthday. Meanwhile, I was there trying to pull off a birthday surprise for him. I was lost in thought until Stanley told me to send him a text and try calling him again. I tried calling him again, and this time it went through. I was really happy because I was really excited and couldn't wait for him to pick up his phone. I kept calling and texting him, hoping that Andrew would pick up. My husband didn't pick up, nor return any of my messages, which made me even more frustrated. I was really annoyed. Stanley also tried calling him multiple times, but still got no response. I noticed that the guests were all ready. I was starting to get annoyed and ask what was going on. It's been an hour already, and there was no sign of the celebrant in the hall. Stanley told me to keep trying Andrew's line while he dealt with the guests. Well, somehow Stanley managed to convince the guests and came back to where I was. We kept trying his lines and still got no response. It was pretty bad. I was really embarrassed. At that point it was no longer funny. How could I invite my friends and Andrew to come out and surprise him only for him to delay like that? All my efforts were practically in vain. What did he expect me to tell all those people present? My husband, whom I pulled this surprise for, is not picking up his calls or returning any messages. I didn't believe what was happening back then. It was 9. By 9:30, Andrew was still nowhere to be found. The guests started leaving, feeling annoyed at how I'd wasted their time coming to a birthday party that the celebrant wasn't even in attendance at that time. I felt like I should hide my face because of the nasty comments. All the guests left, leaving Stanley and me in the empty hall. I felt betrayed and was very angry with how things turned out. Stanley told me to go home and that I drove home, crying. I kept asking myself what I had done to deserve all of that. I kept asking myself why Andrew had suddenly changed. We weren't like that before, so what had changed? Those were the thoughts in my head as I drove home, crying. I got home and managed to get to the bedroom, waiting for Andrew to come. A few minutes later, Andrew returned. He met me, all sobbed up, and asked what was wrong with me. I asked him where his phone was, and he brought it out. Guys, my husband's phone wasn't on silent or anything. I asked him if he hadn't seen my calls or messages, but he said he was sorry that he couldn't pick up or return any calls or texts at that time. He didn't ask why I had to call him so much, or try to be remorseful about it. Andrew and I got into a heated argument that night. I told him how I went out of my way to plan a birthday surprise for him, and I also invited friends to come celebrate with him, but he blew it off. Andrew made the usual excuse that I was busy with work. I was disappointed and irritated, so I left the room. A few weeks went by, and Andrew's late-night shifts grew worse. It seemed like my husband was purposely made for that profession alone. I no longer sat with my husband to watch movies. We stopped eating together. We also stopped doing our normal daily routine. It was hell. I'm a full-time housewife before we got married. Andrew and I discussed that I stay at home while he works to fend for the both of us. I agreed to it, but I never thought it would turn out this way. That was not the life I imagined, and I don't plan to continue to stay that way. Before we got married, Andrew and I agreed that I'd stay at home while he worked to support us both. I was fine with that, but I never imagined it would turn out this way. It's not the life I imagined, and I don't plan to continue like this. I didn't have a problem staying at home and taking care of my family, but it's frustrating when your partner doesn't give you attention or even try to spend time with you as a couple. I don't even remember when I last received a gift from my husband. I was happy to take care of my family and household, but it was frustrating when my husband didn't give me attention or try to spend time with me as a couple. I don't even remember the last time he gave me a gift. I'm sure he forgot about our anniversary if he couldn't come. I was sure he wouldn't come to my surprise birthday party. I couldn't continue to deal with his nonchalant behavior. I got tired and frustrated with the way we communicated. He didn't pick up his calls or return any text messages. When he came home late at night, there was no way to discuss anything with him. The sudden change made me seek attention elsewhere, so I started seeing someone else. Yes, I cheated on Andrew. I started going out with an old schoolmate of mine while I was still at college. His name is Patrick. Patrick was a year ahead of me in college, and one day, while I was scrolling through Facebook, I received a friend request from Patrick, a guy I'd known since school. I accepted without having any intention of doing anything with him. We started chatting for a few weeks, telling each other about our days. Our chats intensified, and we exchanged contacts. Patrick and I started texting and calling late at night. Sometimes Patrick came to visit to keep me company. What started as an innocent friendship between Patrick and me became very close. We went on a couple of dates together. I kept it secret, and Patrick was aware that I was married, but he didn't know the details. Andrew. So we kept our relationship private. This went on for a couple of months, and it felt like I was getting myself back. I forgot I was even married for a long time due to how Andrew had treated me in the past. Patrick gave me all the attention I was begging Andrew for. He noticed every little detail and made sure to put a smile on my face. It felt surreal because I never thought that someone could listen to me or give me the maximum attention I was yearning for. I was beginning to feel like Patrick was the one for me. Gradually, I forgot about Andrew. I never planned to cheat on my husband or do anything to strain the marriage. Andrew didn't realize that his late nights and constant overtime were damaging our marriage. He couldn't balance his personal life and career, and I blamed him for choosing work over his wife and giving me less attention. I didn't regret going out with Patrick. I felt alive for the last couple of months. Last Friday around noon, my husband came back from work with some bags. He probably got some stuff from the store. I was surprised to see Andrew coming back home early. He never used to come back in the afternoon. Sometimes he even left for work the next day with bags for me. I asked him if everything was okay, and he said yes. He said that Andrew had got him a dress. He gave me a watch, a bag and a shoe, and told me to put them on so we could go out for dinner. Yes, dinner. My husband wanted to take me out for the first time in a long time. I lost count of the last time he took me out. It was a bittersweet moment for me. It was bitter in the sense that I was already going out with someone else. It was also nice because my husband was making time for us. So Andrew kept up with his sudden behavior. He took me out, bought me lots of gifts, went on a couple of dates and attended functions together. We started spending quality time together as couples do. He didn't come home late at night anymore, and he cut back on his night shifts on the day of our anniversary. Andrew threw a surprise party for me and promised to make it up to me and apologize for the way he'd treated me. I was happy that my husband had started to realize where he'd gone wrong, and I was ready to make it right again. I lived in those moments for a very long time before I realized that Andrew had no idea about my infidelity. He didn't know that I'd cheated on him when he failed to give me attention. I know you're all wondering what happened between me and Patrick. Well, nothing really happened. Patrick and I kept seeing each other as usual. I thought Andrew's change of heart was just a temporary thing, but it lasted for months. He doesn't usually go to work on weekends anymore, so we used that time to watch movies and cook together. I miss those days when me and Andrew used to cook, clean and do other house chores. Together it was great back then. We used to be so close, but then he got promoted at work and left me at home without giving me the attention I needed. The last few months were great for me because I finally got the attention I needed from my husband, and we bonded really well. Patrick, my affair partner, wanted more from me. He said that I gave him less attention and ignored him ever since Andrew started giving me attention. Well, he was right about that. Andrew's new change made me rethink my actions. I felt so guilty, but then again, it wasn't my fault from the start. I've been thinking about this mess I've got myself into, and I'm planning to tell Andrew I want to make things right again by letting my husband know that I cheated on him with one of my schoolmates, Patrick. I don't know why, but the guilt is killing me inside. I called Patrick and ended things with him. I told him I couldn't continue with the relationship anymore and I wanted to fix things with Andrew. This didn't go down well with Patrick, who kept on calling and texting me to have a change of mind. I blocked his lines and ended all forms of communication with him. I also warned him not to come and visit me anymore because Andrew, a few weeks after breaking up with Patrick, I felt really uneasy and guilty. I didn't want Andrew to find out from anyone else, so I tried to tell him myself. I tried to tell him on many occasions, but I was too scared of how he would react. I couldn't take the guilt any longer, so I waited for a perfect opportunity to tell my husband. One day, Andrew and I were sitting at home watching a movie together, and I summoned the courage to tell him about how I'd been having an affair with Patrick for 8 weeks. I felt uneasy, but I noticed that he was so focused on the TV he was watching that he didn't notice that I was fidgeting out of nervousness. I took the remote and paused the TV. Andrew was surprised by my actions and asked what was so important that I wanted to discuss. I told him I had to stop what he was watching and sit facing him. I asked him what was making me feel uneasy. I finally got the courage to tell him everything about my affair with Patrick. I noticed the look on Andrew's face while I was telling him everything. He got so angry that he threw as I told him more about what had happened between me and Patrick. Andrew started breaking things. I was scared, so I left the house and went to stay with my sister Trisha. I told Trisha everything. I cheated on my husband for a reason. At first, Trisha was angry with me for hiding this from her all this time. She later tried to calm me down. She suggested I call my husband so she could have a word with him. She thought he might calm him down. I tried calling Andrew, but he didn't pick up, or I didn't get any reply to my messages. Trisha and I tried calling him for half an hour, but there was no answer. My sister told me to get some sleep so that we could try his lines again the next morning. I woke up before Trisha and called Andrew for a few minutes. The lines were reachable, but then, at that point, the number wasn't reachable. I kept trying, but it seemed like Andrew had blocked me on all platforms. I couldn't get a hold of him. I wanted to talk to him and explain why I'd done what I'd done. Weeks went by, and I couldn't communicate with Andrew at all. So, Trisha decided to go with me to the house. When we got there, we saw Andrew trying to get into his car to drive out of the compound. I ran to him, but I couldn't get him to talk to me. He hit the car door in my face and told our gatekeeper to throw me out before he drove off. I was completely shattered and heartbroken. How did I end up like this? Andrew couldn't even look at me twice. I guess I disgusted him at that moment. I left with Trisha feeling heartbroken. I couldn't go back to the place I called home. I practically used my hands to destroy the little family I was starting to build. My marriage, which had lasted 3 years, was coming to an end right before my eyes. I wished Andrew could listen to me and understand that everything that happened was a result of his late-night shifts, hectic work schedule, and lack of attention. He prioritized his work and gave me less attention. I wanted to tell him how he made me beg for his attention, and how his absence at home killed me silently. I am now beginning to regret telling him the truth. How could he do this to me after telling him the truth, and I refused to keep him in the dark? But guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because Andrew took revenge and he did so in a very wicked way. Now I didn't know that I was practically living with a very dangerous human being. Yes, he's bound to react after learning about the infidelity, but not in the way I expected. He did something unexpected and wicked with his revenge. It was as if he planned everything perfectly all along and waited for me to fall right into his trap. Maybe he started staying off from work so he could trick me into telling him the truth by myself. I was stupid enough to fall right into it. I guess I've learned my lesson now. A few months went by and I didn't hear anything. I was really keen to fix things with Andrew, so I got angry and went to his place. When I got there, the gatekeeper wouldn't let me in because Andrew had told him not to let me in. I tried to reason with him, but he wouldn't have any of it. I figured he wasn't ready to let me in, and Andrew must have given him strict instructions not to let me into the house. After a bit of back and forth with the gatekeeper, I managed to get into the compound. I quickly made my excuses and left. I went into the house and used the old passcode, which seemed like Andrew hadn't changed it yet. I felt a bit emotional after getting into the house because I missed my home. Everything was quiet and I didn't find Andrew inside, but his car was outside in the car park. I went further in and went into our room hoping to see Andrew, but I didn't. I just guessed that he must have stepped out before I got into the neighborhood. I spent a while feeling down about it. I felt sorry for myself when I realized that my side of the closet was empty. I thought there was something in my eyes and I had been seeing stars, but I realized that I was actually seeing things that didn't belong to me. I was really shocked to realize that nothing that belonged to me was left in the house. I had to run out of the house because I was scared Andrew would hurt me. I was using my sister's clothes while I stayed with her. Not even my bags, clothes, or shoes remained. All my childhood photos, and even my boxes, they were gone. The room looked like I'd never even stepped in before. I was very surprised. If Andrew had been present, I would have literally shredded him to pieces. I had been looking forward to grabbing some clothes to wear because I was tired of using my sister's clothes. Andrew really did me dirty on that one. I waited for him to get back, all the fear I had in me actually disappearing. I no longer felt scared of being alone with him, after almost 30 minutes of waiting and getting disturbed by the gatekeeper, who was scared of Andrew finding me in. I finally heard the front door open. I ran downstairs because I thought Andrew was back, but I didn't see him. I saw a tall woman standing there. I was surprised and asked if she was lost. I couldn't understand why a stranger was at the door. The lady laughed and asked me the same question. She said she was Andrew's girlfriend. I laughed and asked her who she was. I was waiting for her to tell me she was joking, but she never did. My world literally shattered all over again. I was devastated to realize that Andrew had a girlfriend. I started imagining scenes and it was very bad. I imagined that she was the same woman he might have been cheating on me with. I don't know if I was just thinking too much, but I was not in the right frame of mind to make any decision. The lady had the nerve to ask me to leave. I introduced myself as Andrew's wife, but she told me she already knew that. She then had the nerve to tell me I was sulking to be the ex-wife. I have to be honest. I wanted to attack her right there and then, but I managed to control myself. I asked her if she was the one who took my clothes and kept them. She said yes, so I asked her where they were. She actually laughed mockingly before telling me that Andrew had given everything to her and told her to do whatever she wanted with it. I was really upset about it, so I sold most of them and threw the rest away. I didn't think twice before grabbing her shirt in that moment. All my usual sense of reason left me, and all I wanted to do was just make sure I'd hurt her with my nails. I grabbed her hair and asked her where she kept my childhood pictures. She told me that she'd burnt everything. I was really angry and I almost removed the hair on her scalp. She tried fighting back, but I was far bigger than her, and she was in a state of shock. I can't believe that Andrew had the audacity to do that to me. How could he let a stranger take care of my belongings? How could Andrew keep a total stranger in charge of my childhood pictures, the clothes, bags, and so on? Boxes and other items don't matter as much as those pictures? Not even the jewelry and makeup hurt me as much as those pictures do? I lived with my stepfather and mother all my life because my dad died before I was born. My stepfather wasn't the best father to me. And I looked forward to the day I got married and was independent enough to live in that house. I took all my pictures with. I didn't want to live in any picture with them, so I was really hurt when Andrew gave those pictures to a total stranger. He knew how attached I was to those pictures, and he knew why he was doing it. I've spoken to him about it before, and I know that he intentionally decided to make that decision. While I was still trying to pull the lady's hair, Andrew walked into the house. He rushed towards us and separated us immediately. It turned out that the gatekeeper had called him while he was at work and told him that I was at the house. I asked Andrew why he did what he did, but he refused to give me an answer. He grabbed my hand and dragged me out of the house. He told me to leave the house and never come back. I was shocked that he'd sided with a total stranger instead of listening to me. I actually started crying because I couldn't believe that Andrew would do that to me. I never expected such a thing from him. I asked him why he'd given that lady the right to burn my childhood. Andrew told me he didn't care what happened to me. I asked him if he knew, because his answer would affect my next move. He said he knew, and that he'd given the orders. I slapped him, and he was surprised. He tried to attack me later, but the gatekeeper stopped him. He stopped him from acting, and nothing he ever did to me hurt me, just like what he did. How could he do that? My childhood was gone. I left the house, and that was the last time I saw Andrew. I went to my stepfather and mother's house because my sister couldn't afford to feed us. When I got there, I got another shock. I discovered Andrew went to my mother and stepfather and told them everything that happened between us. I was really hurt, because they're very religious and don't accept infidelity or lies. They weren't ready to accept me back after what they heard, even though I was the one who'd done wrong. My own mother threw me out. I didn't expect that. My stepfather was fine with it because we'd never been close, but my mother really surprised me. I left the house and went back to my sister's place. I told her everything that happened, and she promised to help me out. I just told her not to worry about it, and that I'd move out in 2 months. It's been 2 weeks, guys, and I'm trying to find the best solution. I wish I'd kept my mouth shut. Telling him the truth just made things worse. I should have just lied to him. Maybe that would have been the best thing to do. Once bitten, twice shy. I don't plan on ever seeing Andrew again, and I will be filing for divorce. I waited for him to come with the divorce papers. I haven't heard anything from him yet. I'm going to file for divorce, and I'll definitely ask for alimony or spousal support. He did me dirty, and I'm going to try my best. The single life isn't as fun as you all make it seem. I'm not having as much fun as I thought I would. I guess a little sense of humor is the best thing for the kind of hard life I'm living for the first time in my life. I'm completely independent, which is just one of the best things I've ever felt. I was in a hurry to leave my stepfather's house, so I got married as soon as I could. Now I'm on my own and I'm learning what independence means. I filed for divorce and our divorce was settled in 3 months. Andrew and his lawyer gave me a fair deal, and I was settled. My lawyer told me to take the deal immediately he saw it. I guess Andrew Loki understands just how much damage he caused me. It was a bittersweet feeling, but at the end of the day, I left my sister's house and rented out my own apartment. I have a CV and I graduated as an historian. I now work and I've earned my first salary recently. Andrew and his new girlfriend have been going out a lot, and I've even seen pictures on social media. He has never been a social media person, but suddenly he's very interested in posting pictures online. When he was with me, he was always extremely busy with work, and then I even found out that Andrew started paying more attention to me on social media because his friend Stanley told him that I might cheat on him if he didn't start showing me the attention I craved. That's why he was scared of getting embarrassed and decided to show me attention to save his face with his friends. It was clear that they'd started talking behind his back after what happened at his birthday party, and he didn't want that. I don't care anymore. When Stanley came to meet me and tried to have a conversation, I refused to listen. I have no business with him anymore, and I don't want to have anything to do with him. Andrew is now my past, and I sincerely hope that I don't think I'll meet someone like that again. I'm glad I told him the truth, even though I regret it. It's a bittersweet ending. I guess everything that happened was meant to happen. That's it for now, guys. I'm just working and have to get to sleep early so I can wake up for work. I don't want to be late. Thanks for coming with me on this journey.